Hi kids, it's Grumpy. Let's read a book.
Hi kids, it's Grumpy. Let's read a book. We're going to read some VeggieTales again. God thinks you are super and wants you to do your best. And this story here is The Half-Hearted Viking. It looks like Bob and Asparagus Guy and Larry and a dog with a helmet. Dog with a helmet. Okay. Even Vikings need a vacation, and one of the favorite Viking vacation spots was the Pillage Inn Resort on the coast of Denmark. Say cheese, Sven shouted, snapping a group photo by the pool. A huge sign greeted them that read, "Have a plunderful time at the Pillage Inn." It was as perfect as a postcard. Until the monster showed up. There they are, taking the picture. The plunderful time at the Pillage Inn. Well, actually, things started going wrong even before the monster came along. It all went downhill the moment the Vikings met the hotel owner, half Danish, and his little dog, Beowulf. Half Danish was a Viking too, but he was a half-hearted Viking. He never put his whole heart into anything. He never did his best, especially when it came to running the hotel. Half Danish carried their suitcases only halfway to their rooms, and then dropped them on the floor. "It's the best I can do," he said. Even more shocking, the hotel room was half the size of a normal room, and the beds were half the size of normal beds. "I thought we were getting king-size beds," said Olaf. "Sorry, we only have peasant-sized beds," said half Danish. "It's the best I can do." Doesn't sound too thrilled, does he? Okay. Every day the maids cleaned only half the room. The restaurant served half-cooked meals, and the waiters spilled half of the food on the Vikings. The Vikings tried their best to enjoy themselves anyway. During their first hour at the Pillage Inn, Sven had already taken 1,214 photos. But when Otter and Sven found out that their hotel towels were only half dry, it was time to complain. They went straight to the front desk. "In addition to the half-dry towels, the TV in our room only shows half of a picture," griped Otter. "Sorry, it's the best I could do," half Danish said. He shrugged and went back to reading the newspaper. "Is this really the best you can do?" said Otter. "God asks us to serve others with all of our heart. When you put all of your heart into something and do your best, it shows that you care. But you don't care about anyone but yourself." Half Danish looked up from his newspaper and said, "Sorry, what was that you said? I was only half listening." Otter let out a groan. I don't blame him. This dude sounds terrible. "Here's the deal," added half Danish, setting down the paper. "I'll give you guys bigger rooms if you do a little something for me." "What little something?" Otter asked. He didn't like the sound of this. "Just get rid of that little pest in our hotel," said half Danish. "You mean bugs?" asked Sven. "No, a monster," said half Danish. "Get rid of our monster problem and I'll give you a bigger room." Otter and Sven were shocked. "You must be crazy if you think we're going to fight a monster for you," Otter shouted. "I'll give you half price on your room," half Danish bargained. "It's a deal," said Otter. Money talks. So that very night, Otter and Sven hid in the storage room next to the kitchen. Half Danish said the monster broke into the hotel last night and took lots of hotel towels. Otter told Sven. "The horror!" Sven exclaimed. "What kind of beast are we dealing with? What kind of monster would take a hotel towel? What kind of—" "Shh!" cried Otter. "Did you hear that?" "You mean the sound of me talking?" whispered Sven. "When I talk, I always hear myself. That's the way it usually works." "Not that," said Otter. There it was, the sound of a door creaking open. Something entered the kitchen, something breathing very, very loud. Well, what could that be? Something breathing very, very hard. That's kind of dark. Otter peeked through the door. The shadow of a hideous beast was cast against the kitchen wall. The monster had huge, spiky horns and a long, pointy tail. "Are you ready?" whispered Otter. "Ready," said Sven, trembling. "Now," Otter said. The two brave Vikings barged into the kitchen. The flash of Sven's camera lit up the dark room like lightning. Otter hurled his net over the horrible creature. With Otter on the monster's back, it thrashed and bashed through the kitchen like a clumsy bull on a waxed floor in a china shop. Pots and pans crashed and dishes broke. Crash, bang, bong. Finally, the creature tumbled to the floor, wrapped up in the net. Good job, Bob, or Otter, or whatever your name is. Click! Someone turned on the light in the kitchen. It was Half Danish, still in his pajamas. "I was half asleep when I heard the ruckus," said Half Danish. "Did you capture the monster?" "We sure did," declared Otter proudly. "Behold the beast." Otter stepped aside to see what kind of monster he had caught. It was terrifying. It was horrible. It was Norse and Rune? Half Danish exclaimed. "What are you doing in the kitchen?" "Where's the monster?" asked Sven. "We saw a hideous creature with horns and a spiked tail." "Don't you see, Sven?" said Otter. "They are the monster. And look, they're stealing towels again." "You're fired," shouted Half Danish. "No, wait," Otter said. "Maybe they're not stealing the towels. I think they're bringing them back. And look, these towels are fluffy and clean." "Ooh, lemony fresh," said Sven, burying his nose in a towel. "Your employees really care," came a voice from the door. It was the guy from the all-night laundry place. Norse and Rune weren't happy with the half-dry towels in this hotel, so they've been bringing them to me in the middle of the night. Half Danish was stunned. "I didn't know how much you cared about this hotel," he said to his two employees. "They care, and they do their very best. They're no monster," said the laundry guy. And that's what had happened. Somehow, some way, Half Danish's heart became whole that night. Norse and Rune had showed him how wonderful it was to put your whole heart into something. From that moment on, things changed at the Pillage Inn. Half Danish made sure the meals were fully cooked, the beds were fully made, and the room service employees brought meals all the way to the room. But best of all, Half Danish found out that doing his best made him not half happy, but totally happy. And that isn't half bad. Oh, there's a postcard with everybody on it. "Dear Aunt Hildy, having a plunderful time in Denmark. Wish you were here with all my heart, Sven. Working at everything you do with all your heart. Work as if you were working for the Lord, not for human masters." And that's Colossians 3:23. Think about this. Sometimes we don't try very hard, but we are happy when we do our best. When we don't do our best, it can make you feel bad. So, do your best, even when it's hard. It will make you happier. It will help you grow up and be very good at what you want to do. Doing your best can be a lot of fun. And there's the gang. It was a pretty good story, kids. Super words and promises for super you. God made you special, so you can do super special things. Sometimes we don't want to do our best. Don't give up. You could try to do it better next time. God's way is the best way. Questions to talk about with your super mom and dad. How does it make you feel when you do your best? What is something you want to do better at home, at school, or at church? And here's a prayer. God, help me do my best today and every day. Amen. All right, kids. Thanks for spending time listening to me read a book again. Remember, be excellent.